So welcome. This episode is about just soon after your breakup, what it is for the children really to cope with it. And for me, my children were 5, 6, and 7, just started primary school. So kind of all new kind of phases for them as well. And I remember very well, we were able to share the news of our breakup together to the children. That was actually very lovely that we were able to do that together without any kind of raising voice or anything else. So that was fantastic. They were totally surprised. They had, of course, no idea. But the thought was like, oh, wow, we're going to have 2 houses. They were kind of, it wasn't sinking in for them as much. But straight from the beginning, we did week on and week off. And they were young. And that was very difficult. I think for them to suddenly not see their father or not see their mother for a whole week. For myself, I found it a long time not seeing the children, and they were so little. But also for them to kind of, and the situation was quite kind of black and white. It was non-negotiable. No contact, just week on, week off. And that was very challenging for the children, and particularly around saying goodbye. That were and how we did it. It was that they went to school. And then after school, on a Friday initially, and then we changed to Monday, but on a Friday after school, they would walk to their dad's home, or he would pick them up. And so I did not see them. That was that. So it was a really weird kind of, and so they were left going to school kind of upset. Yeah. It's like, and so you have to kind of be strong, and it's okay, and so that was not easy, and then it was no contact was for me quite complicated, and also for the children. So we quite quickly, I gave them phones. I thought, I need to go text, and you can text me and feel connection, and that's how we did that in the beginning. The first kind of
wonderful.
Yeah.
So for me, same thing in many ways. My children experienced a lot of anxiety, separation anxiety. My daughter was 2 and my son wasn't quite 5. So soon after, my daughter, if we went out, say, to even just dinner with friends, my daughter kind of was clingy. She needed to be by my side, or she needed to be playing where I was in eye shot, and that was part of her way of feeling like I'm not going to just leave her, her, or mum's around, I can see her. So there was because they were so young, and to actually understand what's going on and make sense of it takes a lot of adjustment. So there needed to be a lot of reassurance that your mum was always going to be there. There wasn't, mum wasn't just going to disappear, and so that readjustment, fortunately, was really supported by the children's father, and he too really supported and reassured the children that we would be a constant, and that regardless of us not being together and he not being in the house, that we would be a constant in their lives, although we won't be a constant together. So that for little children takes time to actually understand that concept. And so my son, when he transitioned to going to school, because that happened soon after our breakup, it was going to school is quite a big event for many children, and it's not easy, that transition. And so it was kind of magnified because it manifested in separation anxiety for him too. So leaving him at school and walking out, because there was a point where I try to comfort and stayed then reassured, but I actually had to walk out. And so I had to walk out with him crying and being extremely upset and distressed, because he would learn that I was going to come back and pick him up, which he did eventually. But there was those little adjustments when I met with a teacher for a teacher interview, and she said that he was displaying anxiety if there were other teachers that were taking him for classes or relievers. You know, he would be constantly asking when the teacher would come back. And so these things are not easy when you yourself are going through all these emotions, but you do have to be strong, because you know, you're in this situation and you have no choice, right? You have to be strong, and even though you're very upset, and is that to focus on the children and supporting them as best as you can, and finding strategies for ourselves to be able to cope too. So we're going to talk about that as well, how it was for us soon after our marriage breakup.
Yeah, and I think what you're right, the fact that the children, my children as well, wanted to know, like, the consistency, knowing, okay, I'll see you again after a week. And it happened every time. So it was consistency, and then that safety feeling,
that's it,
that came back. And I had to remain that bigger person and thinking they will have, and that was kind of for the children as well, because in my situation we had total different parenting styles, and I struggled with that. It was kind of my thinking, oh my gosh, these children will have kind of totally inconsistency, and therefore will kind of lose the plot in the different styles. My style was kind of more nurturing and not as much in the disciplinary kind of area. Well, his household was very, they had to do all the washing the dishes, and the very firm and very kind of army-like. And so I was always scared for them. Well, in fact, that they were used to that, and they were okay with it. So it was like, it was more my thing, my kind of anxiety, thinking, oh my gosh, this is not healthy for them. But in fact, it is surprisingly how children are actually quite resilient. And I think the biggest thing is that was fortunate that they had their father still in their lives, as well their mothers. That's important, I think. So if you haven't got that, then of course there are other situations. But having, and that's what of course you do a lot of reading, having one stable, consistent person for children in that traumatic experience is crucial. It has to be one.
That's it.
And could well be, could be anybody, but that's important for their safety, for their kind of their kind of feeling safe in that sense. So that was kind of for them as well, knowing that. But you're right, I can relate to that kind of anxiety of saying goodbye and not seeing you, and for young children it's hard to understand a week. The time is like, my gosh, that's a long time. So all that was kind of that, and that takes time and time.
So a word of encouragement to you if you're going through the same thing, although our situations were very different, and we'll talk more about some of those challenges. Just want to encourage you that children take time to adjust, but if you can create as much stability as is possible, and if the other parent can also do that as well, then over time they will slowly adjust and feel safe and secure again.
And what I found extremely important is to integrate their two lives, which means talking about their time with their father. How was it? Tell me a little bit about it. Fantastic. In a very kind of positive way. And because they love their father, they love their mother unconditionally. So it's kind of like integrating those two lives by that they're able to share their lives with you as well, even though you were not there. And sometimes it hurts because we had this lovely dinner, went out for dinner, think, oh my gosh, I have no money for that, but that's okay. I had to kind of put that aside, but integrating those two lives together and talking nicely and positive about that experience and is a big one. And I think for us, what we did is I had this vision, must be from movies, I don't know, of children with lots of bags, and then they had to go drive with mum to the car park somewhere, and then the father would drive, and then the mother and the father would look angry, and then he would grab the bags and the kids and gone. That was kind of so. We've never done bags. We've never done any shifting over of stuff. So they had a room here and a room with their dad. They had school uniforms, the whole thing. So they were able to kind of go home with just a school bag, and that was that. Oh, sometimes you have a few little things. And that was to create as normal life as possible, and not to have that kind of sometimes embarrassment of other kids waiting for their mum or dad to pick up with big bags. That was kind of what we did. Not saying it's the best approach, because sometimes it is nice for kids to see the mother and father together. Unfortunately, that was not in our situation the case, but it could well be a way of dealing with it for children, because children want to be normal. They don't want to be different. They want to be as the same as anybody else. And when they get a bit older, they see, oh, actually, there's more people like us. And then they can talk to friends about how it was for them and things like that. But that's a little bit of a way of coping that we did with the children.
And I agree that these transition points, they are can be quite challenging, but if you can create rituals or have something in place so that the transition doesn't feel like I'm in one place, I'm in another place, and I don't even get to acknowledge or share. So that's wonderful that you did that, and they were able to transition and even share and acknowledge what their week was like. I also want to acknowledge that because soon after a breakup it's very emotional. I've never met a single breakup where it wasn't. And if you don't have children, then it's very easy in some ways. You can just not see each other and disconnect. But when you have children, there needs to be a conscious effort. And so that is part of, for the transition points, when the children were being picked up by their father, I tried to minimize the amount of contact that we had initially. Now we've got a great friendship, but initially try not to talk much to each other, except factual, practical stuff. They've got this is what they've got in their bag, or this is what they need to take when they're this is where they need to be at this time. It's that sort of stuff. Just kept it focused on the practical, and other than that, tried to minimize the communication, because those times can be opportunities for you both to start to release some of, and vent and release some of that anger. So that's something that I really encourage, to make a conscious effort to just keep it simple and try and keep it clean. Transitions very clean. Easier said than done, but it can be done.